Hello and welcome to the assembly video for the Mini Miller Sluice. It is a cleanup sluice as well as a Miller table underneath the silicone mat. And hopefully when we're done, it'll look just like this with a digital control for the water speed, all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll go through the supplies, what you get in the kit, and we'll put one together and go from there. Go through what comes in the kit. One thing before I even get started, and one thing I need to mention is no matter which version you get of this, these are all 3D printed parts. They are susceptible to heat. We're going to paint this black with some chalkboard paint. We're going to have a black mat in it, silicone mat. So they are going to absorb some heat, so please keep that in mind, that, don't set it up in your backyard at 120 degrees for, leave it out there for a day or two. It's going to be all warped up. It is just printed plastic, so please keep that in mind. Use it in the shop, take care of it, put away when you're done, you'll be fine. The Mini Miller Sluice consists of 3 main body parts. Here we have the deep well, where you put your mat, slide it in underneath there, and then we have the flare section. We also have the 2 brackets to hold it all together. The other thing I will mention real quick is colors will vary on this, alright? But we're going to paint most of it black so it won't matter. We're going to have the leg kit for the levelers. We're going to have a baffle and a holder for the speed controller. We're going to have a box for the speed controller. The connect for your hose to connect to. Piece of PVC pipe and a T. Some wiring. Some alligator clips. Sizes will also vary on these. And the internal parts of the speed controller. So let's go ahead, and what you're going to need to put these together real quick is some glue to start off with, probably the most important thing. I've tried several different kinds now. The best so far has been Gorilla Glue epoxy. This is enough to put a whole sluice together, but I needed more than that, so I went ahead and got the JB Weld clear epoxy. And you're going to need a little tube of clear silicone, a few clamps, something to mix your epoxy in, some chalkboard paint. I'm using black. I couldn't find any of the green. Some primer if you want to use primer. I don't know if you have to, but I am. Chalkboard paint, and a screwdriver, and that's pretty much it. So I'll just show you how I do. Some clamps. Bigger clamps would be nice, but if you don't have them, and a lot of guys don't, we'll show you how you can do it. First, we're going to start with the base, the deep well, like that, and we're going to connect the middle section of the sluice together. Some of these have borders around, like you can see here. Just trim those off around that. You might want to do a little bit of sanding. I forgot to mention a little bit of sandpaper would be good, or a sanding sponge, just to take care of all these little rough edges. Okay, so let me get some epoxy mixed up, and I'll show you how I stick these things together. Okay, I've got some epoxy mixed together. Just going to put it right on the surface. Use a generous amount. Probably your best bet. You can check it on sanding, get a good nice tight fit together. Once you got the epoxy on there, set the middle section on top of the other one, and you want to make sure you line up the top. Don't worry about the bottom down here. It's got a little bit of an overlap. Line up this top section here. Press it together. Whatever you decide to use, just use your whatever directions are on the epoxy. It works fine. Set that on there. And get a rag or some paper towel, wipe off any excess. Once the bottom is all set up, go ahead and put the flare on. I already pre-sanded these, so I know they're going to line up and fit nice and snug. Alright, now once you have the three sections glued together, you want to put your brackets on. You have a tall one, a short one. Put the epoxy on the brace, a generous amount, slide them together, and clamp them. We had a few hiccups in the video, so let's talk about paint for a second. And things didn't get done quite right, or videoed quite right, so this is kind of more put together. But anyway, talk about paint. So after that's all put together and the brackets are on, it's time for paint. Chalkboard paint, some primer. I used primer on mine first, then 3 or 4 coats of chalkboard paint. After that chalkboard paint is on, you take your, flip this over, put on your levelers brackets. I put mine just before the flare and then right at the end. Then you can screw in your little nuts and bolts there and your lock washers. Good to go. So we'll continue on from there. So leg brackets are on. We'll move on to the little baffle piece that fits down in the deep well and the speed controller holder. So you can slide this, it fits very snugly down here. The speed controller, make sure there's some little holes back here for the wiring to come out of, that come out of the speed controller. Face those towards the back here, and glue it on just like that. Make sure the goes right in the center, and like I said, make sure the holes for the wiring are coming out the back. Okay, pretty self-explanatory, huh? Alright, move on next. We'll put in the PVC pipe T, little 3/4 inch PVC pipe, and the hose connector. This just slides right down in here through the little hole, and this slides over the top. But what we're going to do is use silicone. That's where the little tube of silicone comes in. It's going to be hard to get down in here once it's all put together. So I would suggest put a good amount of silicone all the way around the end of the T here. So it'll squish out and fill in that hole. And also, go ahead and put it all over this little tube here, over the PVC pipe, because we're going to slide that other piece over the top of it. Some on the end there. So we'll slide this through. Down there. Put a little more on the outside of this. And around the outside of the sluice. Then take this, slide it on real tight there, push it together, and wipe off the excess silicone. And we are together. Now, remember, there's one thing to know is silicone is great. Once this thing is painted, don't put any silicone on it before you get the chalkboard paint on there, because chalkboard paint will not, the paint will not stick to the silicone. It'll just bubble on up. But once this is painted, if you've got any little creases in here, in your connections there, or where it's spliced together, you can go ahead and just fill them in with silicone. That way you make sure you don't get any water down in there. Just wipe off the excess. And I'll do this one down here too. Now as this thing gets all scratched up, or the paint starts to wear off, or whatever, you can come back, sand off this little bit of silicone, throw another couple coats of paint on it, you should be good to go. And gold sticks to silicone anyway, so there's not a real downside here once this thing is painted up. Okay, got that done. So let's move on, and we've got our baffle drying over here. We can stick that back in. There, we can just put the legs back in. There are 8 nuts, one for a lock washer that you can put on the top, and one for a foot. Pretty self-explanatory. I'll get this all put together in a bit. What's next? I think the only thing left is the speed controller. Kind of important, so we'll get this thing out of the way. Move on to the speed controller. We got the speed controller here, we got the digital display, we also have the on-off switch and the controller itself. We got a little box to put all the pieces parts in, and a lid for the top. How you get this all in here, I'll just go over it real quick. Really self-explanatory. You just pop that cover off the back. You'll say power in, power, and then the meter. So this would go to the battery, and this would go, this would this would go to the pump. This would go to the battery. So all you need to do to get this in here is you need to take this on-off switch, unplug it, unplug it from there, so that will fit in there. Let's see. Take the knob off. This fits through the little hole in the box. Unscrew the top, or this little thing to hold it in place, off the bottom. So this will fit through here. I'm sure you guys can figure this out. This, the lid goes on here and it screws on real tight. That's going to face towards the center. The little doohickeys there, the wiring. This slides down through here. And our little lock washer, our little threaded nut here. Goes on the bottom to hold that in place. And I guess you could silicone these if you wanted to make them more watertight if you wanted. And then this you can just plug right back in. And this should fit down right there on the top. And you could silicone that on. I would, in case you ever needed to get back inside. The knob. Oh, I forgot to pull the little nut off and thread that all on there. But you get the idea. There's a little nut on the bottom down here. It comes off. And you can silicone that on. The wiring, let me get that all wired up and I'll show you real quick how that all goes in there to make it work right. Wires all connected to the controller. Real simple, just a screwdriver. We can clamp these back on. Little cover. Okay, now this is important. The LED readout faces this direction, the same way the wires come out. To read it so it fits in the... Anyway, this faces the sluice, so we got to take all these wires and run them down underneath, and on the back side we have battery and pump, and one for each. So you're just going to want to fish those wires. That'd be the top ones. Power in. This goes to the battery. Fish that through there. Alright, I got the wires fished through there. Like I said, this goes, the wires face the front where it says printingprospectors.com. The battery and the pump in the back. Just pull these through. And there's enough room underneath the speed controller for these wires to all fit. and it's a tight fit. I would silicone around these edges. Fits right down in there like that. And then silicone the edges around the top here. And it's together. I'm not gonna show you how to put on the alligator clips. You can figure that out. It's not too tough. You can put those on and you're pretty much good to go. All we got to do is put the legs on here. Like I said, there's a lock washer for the top. Just because these are plastic and the tolerances aren't that great, it's not like a metal screw. Put that on the top. Put these on the bottom, or screw these in. Got the levelers put in there. These little lock washers are great for keeping it steady. You're probably going to want to epoxy or glue these bottom feet on so they don't turn and fall off. The speed controller fits in just like so. Once it's all put together, the wires hang out the back like that. Then all we would need now is the mat, and that just slides right underneath this little lip right here. It's a tight fit. Now that slides under there like so. And the silicone mat, good to go. This hose fitting back here is kind of optional. You don't have to go this way. I did this for an 1/8 of an inch hose. You could not put this on and come up with your own, you know, whether you wanted to put a garden hose fitting on there or what have you. But this is what it comes with. Is there anything else? I think that should about do it. The sluice, Mini Miller sluices are available at printingprospectors.com. You can get them there. At the time of this video, we're just starting out, so we'll get this all put together. More kits may become available, as well as units completely assembled. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and we will catch you next time. Bye now.